Hi everyone, it's Barbara Hayward here from the Old Girls Spiritual Stuff YouTube channel and Facebook page. It is with absolute pleasure today. I have got the most incredible guest, an a thoroughly interesting lady, and somebody that it is my utmost pleasure for you to get to know her like I got to know her many years ago. I did promise you when I started the interviews that I would only interview the very best people. And today is of no exception to that. Her name is Geraldine, Geraldine Tegeloff. She's from Victoria in Australia. Geraldine and I met about 15 years ago, roughly that time. And Geraldine was going through a magnificent spiritual transition in her life. She's a music teacher, she produces music, she writes music, and she's got the most incredible, soulful, Celtic type music CDs that you can get off her website. But she's just so connected to the earth, so connected to the universe. And Geraldine came from a very traditional background, a very traditional upbringing to find spirit, to find her God, to find her love of universe and humanity and spiritual awareness. And Geraldine, thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your valuable time, not only with myself, but with our wonderful today audience and our future audience. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Geraldine has been my spiritual mentor for the whole of the 15 years. She's a lady that doesn't talk to me a lot. She doesn't need to, but she kicks me up the backside sometimes. She says some very harsh words, or she's a school teacher. She knows how to speak to me and to get me moving, and she's changed my life spiritually. I've had two incredible women that have taught me so much in the spiritual area, and Geraldine is one of those ladies. Geraldine, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, after that, Barb, I'm going to have to, sit back in the chair for a while, but it is such a pleasure to be here. And is it really 15 years?
I think it may even be a little bit more. I
Oh
can't
my
remember.
goodness, how time flies when you're having fun. Yes, but
Absolutely.
it's lovely to be here. It is, it's my pleasure. So whatever you wish to chat about today, I've got the cup of tea beside me,
Good.
and I'm ready to go.
We'll go
Mm.
for it. Now, when I did meet you, we met. Do you mind if I say the church we met at?
No, not
Okay.
at all.
We met in Melbourne at a church called Unity School of Christianity, and it's a metaphysical church. And it's also, believe it or not, Catherine Ponder, which is one of my original authors that I was put on 42 years ago, and Florence Chauvel Shing was a part of this community as well.
Yes.
So this was the Unity Church of Christianity, and it was about 6 or 8 months before Geraldine was making, or you were making a massive change in your world and in your public life. Can we maybe start there? We could start anywhere you like.
Absolutely, Barb. Well, as you have mentioned, I was, born and raised in a very traditional Catholic family, and I'm very grateful for that upbringing in so many ways because, well, I'll explain as I go along. But it was a family where we said the rosary every night. Prayer was very important. We were certainly went to church every Sunday and did all those things. And of course, that led me into marriage, and I happened to marry a good Catholic boy. So that was, we got the tick of approval from everyone on both sides. And so I went through that, very early stage and on to my teenage years. And when we got married, we were very involved in church. Now, I have to make a little aside here that even as a small child, even though I was hearing all the time that, it was a God that we needed to fear, a God that would send us to hell if we weren't good, I don't know where I came from, but I knew that wasn't true. And I knew that God was a God of love. And I would announce that to my grandmother, who would be horrified when I said, I don't believe that. So, I was always kind of the black sheep of the family. Or maybe that one that went off and they had to come and find. I don't know, but I was one of those. But we seem to always find ourselves at churches where the priest was very forward thinking,
Right.
which allowed me to basically be who I really wanted to be within that church situation, which was wonderful. So I'm sure, and excuse me to anybody listening or watching today on this video at any point, I use the word God. I don't apologize for it because that's what I was brought up with. I know a lot of people use the universe and spirit and whatever, but if you hear me saying God, it's just because it's me. So I was always able to, through my church work and music and being very involved in that community that we were in, I was still able to, I guess, worship the God that I believed in, which was fantastic. But then, as you know, we went through a couple of pretty harrowing experiences in life, which brought us to our knees. And that kind of then sent me into the next little lifetime, because I believe in one lifetime we go through several lifetimes.
Right.
And so that, we, in this lifetime, I had, as you said, that religious lifetime. And I got to after these experiences that we had, I decided there had to be more. There really had to be more to it than just praying to a God and never getting an answer, never getting what I felt or I knew in my heart I should be living. I wasn't living the life that I believe as a child of God, that life that we should be living. So I went in search of finding something. And as it so happened, we had to move. And so we moved to Melbourne, and I said to Bill, my husband, when we get to Melbourne, I'm going to find the church that I feel is right for me. Now, whether you want to join me or not, that's entirely up to you, but I need to find the next step. And so it just so happened, you won't believe this, Barb, it just so happened that someone handed me a leaflet and said, I don't know where I found this, but I thought you might be interested. I'm not, but I thought you might be. And it was on Unity of Melbourne. Of course it was. So I thought, right, I will head to Unity of Melbourne. And once again, I said to Bill, look, please, if you don't wish to do this, that's fine. But I need to do something about it. So he said, no, I'm coming with you. May as well be, in for a penny, in for a pound, off we go. And I walked into Unity of Melbourne and basically burst into tears because I felt like there was something there that said, welcome home. So,
Geraldine, I had the very same feeling.
yes.
When I walked into that church, I knew I knew I'd come home.
home. It's amazing, isn't it? Everybody was extremely welcoming. And as you know, at Unity, all faiths were, brought into the
Embraced.
fold and embraced, and whatever you believed in, that was perfectly fine. And you could continue believing that if you wished. Well, I ate metaphysics from, in the moment I woke up in the morning till the moment I fell asleep at night, because it was just an insatiable thirst.
Yeah.
And I decided to study as well formally, which I did. And that was amazing. And I had a wonderful mentor at that stage, a minister, a metaphysical minister who had come out from the US. And this might sound very cruel, Barb, and very rude, but he went and up and passed on.
I know,
I
how
mean,
dare he?
how rude is that?
Did he
Here,
ask your permission? No,
no. And
no,
here I
not
was
at
in
all.
the middle of my
Yeah,
study and having a wonderful time, and he decides to transition.
he's going to pop off.
Yeah. So off he went. And then I sat and twiddled my thumbs for a while and thought, no, well, I'll just keep going. And then another minister arrived from the US. Do you remember Jack Bomar?
Yes.
Yes. And I walked into the church one day for a practice for music, and this person was sitting at the piano playing and singing, and he turned around and he said, "So you're the person I've been waiting for." And I'm kind of looking around thinking, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he said, no, you. He said, I don't know who you are, but I know you're the person I've been waiting for. I said, okay, so why and when and how and what for and all the rest. And so he was a wonderful mentor too. He continued then what Bob had begun
Began, yeah.
whilst he was here. And so that was great. And so the Unity Church of Melbourne, I see now, was the most amazing experience and a wonderful place for anyone to start their metaphysical journey. And I mean to start their metaphysical journey. Then, after a number of years, I found that it still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And so the next lifetime began in this lifetime.
Right.
And at that point, Bill retired, and I had given up teaching. I was teaching in a Catholic school, and I had to make the huge decision of saying, well, I can't stay here any longer. And the principal was devastated. And she said, may I ask why? And I said, look, I participate in things that I know if I stayed here and people discovered what I do, you would be in trouble. I wouldn't be in trouble, but you would. And so that's not being fair to you or to the school or anybody else. So, and believe me, that was the hardest decision to make because we were broke and it was a fabulous income, but sometimes you have to make these decisions, no matter how big they are. You know that your spiritual journey is calling. So when Bill retired, we decided that we would buy a caravan, and we would just travel Australia. And that gave me the opportunity to continue my study, but kind of move on from metaphysics into what I would consider a really spiritual realm of study.
Would you be looking at maybe more esoteric study at that stage?
uh,
Or
I
just
think
deeper?
I think if I was totally honest, Barb, I'm looking more at scriptural study
Right.
and what that really means. You know, the master teacher, Jesus, who was always a really important part of my life. And when I said earlier about I'm very, very grateful for the Catholic Church upbringing, our study was all on the New Testament. And so I did learn a lot of you know, Jesus' teachings and what he stood for and everything else, but I didn't really understand it. I only got the Catholic version.
Right.
Which was, you know, what they believed, what they felt was right, and I'm never here one to say they were wrong. That's just
I'd
not
agree.
Yeah, that's being judgmental, and I accept that that's what they knew and that's what they felt was best to teach.
And you
And
know,
so
there is a saying, and I think it's in the Bible, that there are many roads that lead to my mansion.
yes,
And I
absolutely.
take that as whatever religion or non-religion you are, whatever your beliefs or non-beliefs are, you will all come to the one place, and that's the oneness of God.
Absolutely, Barb. You've said it in one. Yes. So um, leaving in the van, which I was always so against, you know, and when Bill suggested it, I said, well, you know, I don't do rough. So if you want me to do this, then it's going to have to be a good caravan
Yeah,
because, you know, I like the nice things of life.
absolutely.
So we bought an oldie, but a goodie. She just felt right when we stepped into her. I said to Bill, "This is the one." He said, "Okay, this is the one. This is what we get." And uh, Evelyn is her name, so we call her Evie for short. So Evie is pulled by Dave. We had to go and buy a new, you know, ute truck thing, whatever they're called, you know, to
You
pull it.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, that one of those. So we bought Dave to pull Evie, and off we went. And I think it was absolutely meant to be because that gave me the space. And I am married to this amazing man who just accepts where I'm at, makes the space available for me to study and to contemplate and to meditate and do all the things that I now really had time to do, which was fantastic. And you can't do that at home a lot of the time because
No.
we've got kids and grandkids and, you know, everything's going on. And you naturally, which is wonderful, and I love
Yeah.
them all dearly, but you get drawn into that all the time. And I really felt like I needed my 40 days in the desert.
Yeah.
And
And one of the things, as the audience may or may not know, I've been living now in a house bus for nearly a year. And add to what you were saying that, and this is my understanding, it doesn't mean it's right, it just is mine,
mm,
that when you live in a house, the conditioning around that comes with the responsibilities around things like visitors popping in and you know, taking care and doing this and visiting and making it the home environment. And it lends to that certain vibration or energy level of not experiencing and not experimenting and not giving you a different mindset headspace. So
yeah,
that's what I see you talking about. If we can go back a little bit in time, when I we were both at this the Unity of Melbourne, and you you announced to the congregation that you were having a launch, and this particular launch impacted me, that changed my life and the direction of my life so much. And I don't think we've spoken about this, but you announced that you were releasing You had written music and recorded some music, and you were in the process of leaving the Catholic realm um, and leaving the school and coming out, if you like, as in the spiritual realm, and you were promoting your very first CD. And
Heavens, Bob, yes.
it was just when you played that music, you played three or four songs that day. I just cried. I had tears just streaming down my face. There is something in that Celtic music that touches me and takes me to a place. But what I saw for me, and I want to say thank you publicly here, is that, may I say how old you were?
Yes, yes.
Okay. You were 60 years old and I was 58 years old. And I saw this lady who had gone through such um, a situation in life that you chose never to speak about because you understood the law of attraction and what we speak is what we get and all that for another day. But I looked at you and I saw this magnificent lady who I so respected, but was changing career at 60 bloody years old. And I'm 58 and I'm struggling with identity, and my career had seemed like it had finished and the whole thing. And here you are, not just changing career, but changing philosophy, changing lifestyle, changing communication and everything about yourself. And I was in such awe and privileged to be part of that day. Um, that was really the beginning, wasn't it, of this transition
It
into.
certainly, yes, it was, Barb. And I would have to say that the music was I guess it was the thing that got me through the struggle. So I wrote a meditation CD first in music. That was the Secret Places
Yes, yes,
CD. And then I wrote quite a few songs when we were going through our struggle time. And so the first CD that came out was On the Winds of Freedom, and it's got the eagle on the front of it.
yes.
And those songs, they were all deeply metaphysical, and I didn't know it at the time. As as a spirit flows through you, it's spirit creating those songs, not me. I was just the channel through which they were flowing.
I think it was a
And
collaboration, really.
yes, and um, they helped me to heal myself. And so I can understand then those songs would help to heal others too,
Yeah.
because I guess the meaning behind the words was so true for so many sitting in that church on the day of the launch. So I can understand there were a lot of teary faces on that day. And I'm looking around thinking, is the music that bad? Do I really? I'm making everybody cry. Does it sound that bad? But I think it hit a lot of emotional
Yeah.
chords. And thank goodness, the following CD, Wishes from My Heart, was the next stage of that. I'd come
Right.
through the healing process and then recorded the next CD, which was way more uplifting, much deeper spiritually. But yes, so it was kind of a way for me to heal myself. And I
Right.
think through that, enabled a lot of other people to heal too, which was great. Yeah.
And I think it was a way for you also to fully embrace and become one with your people in spirit, to become one with your God and energies, that surrounded that time that allowed you to take the leap? Because, there is a saying, you cannot jump a large chasm in two small leaps. You
Yes.
must always do it in one big leap.
Yeah.
And it's and when I knew you for some time beforehand, it may have been 18 months, it may have been 12 months. But before that, once that occurred, I noticed a dramatic shift and a dramatic change in you. And it was like you had become one with your connection, one with your universe, one with your God. And I really saw that significant difference.
Yes, and I think once you make that decision, because if I'm being perfectly honest too, I had to go and tell my family.
Yeah.
Now, that's a huge one because having to go and tell your family who are still deeply practicing Catholics, well, I'm no longer considering myself a Catholic, and this is what I'm doing. And I'd already started my study to become a metaphysical minister. And they were, how do I put it? There was
Vocal?
a lot of silence. Let's put it that way.
Silence. Okay. Not vocal, silence. Okay.
Just silence. Yes,
Silence.
stunned, I think, is what you call it. And then a few questions like, how could you possibly do that? How could you do it? Well, quite easily, really. So, yes, but I think underneath it, I was as I said, even as a child, I was the black sheep of the family. So it was kind of, I think they then thought, oh, well, yes, that's pretty typical and we'll get on with life. But yes, it was a big change. But once I had done that, and as you say, released the idea to the family, and people then knew what I was doing and what I was on about, um, they showed up to the launch of the music. They came, which was, I invited them and said, it's up to you. But they came. Now, whether that was just out of, well, we better see what she's up to and where she is, but they came. And
Okay.
yes, and I think it gave them permission too to
Yeah.
perhaps change gears a little, which was good. But yes, it was a big moment. Mm.
And and certainly when you come from an environment that is so strict and so rigid in the thought belief and that area, um, it is scary. I mean, change is
It,
scary, having to come out about who you are on any level. Um, but spirituality, for certain, it is scary. It's scary for them and scary for you because
yeah.
in that process, you, Geraldine,
Mm.
or I, Barbara, we will falter and go back in the old way, or we will stand tall and move into our future. In
Mm.
those times, we are given the opportunity to find out how strong our beliefs in our newness is.
Mm. Yes, absolutely, Barb. And I think then taking our van around, traveling around Australia, and we do it in 4 or 5 months at a time, which is wonderful. And then we come back for our dose of family,
Yep.
um, was just the most amazing time to stretch myself spiritually.
Mm.
And in that time, I kind of shut up shop as far as social media goes, as far as I did revamp the website and thought, right, we'll give that a go. But I've since kind of closed that off too, because I really felt I just needed time. It doesn't matter how long, doesn't matter, when this, and you never get there anyway, as you know.
Yeah.
But I definitely needed the time and the space to go, right, this is me now. And I will start a life of contemplation. And, contemplative prayer is absolutely amazing, and meditation and reading. I'm still studying, which is great. And just moving forward a little bit at a time, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back,
Steps
but
back.
hopefully.
See,
Mm,
one of the things, and I think we've discussed this years ago to some degree, I was taught by a lady in a most unusual way, and most people know my history with crystal. But the majority of people who come into this world or look at this world think it's about clairvoyance or healing. I'm a great healer, or I'm a hands-on, or I do this, or I do that, or I'm a clairvoyant or a medium. But that's what I call the tools of spirit. That's what we give out. But when Crystal said to me, I'm you're not allowed to use a tarot pack or give a healing or a clairvoyant message until I tell you you're ready. As it turned out, it was 5 years. And in that 5 years, she said, I want you to hear the unseen and see the unheard, and how to talk to the trees, but more importantly, how to hear the trees, how to hear the ocean, how to hear the flowers, how to hear what is spoken in the unheard. And so, what I try to tell people is there's two parts to being spiritual, and it's your choice which one comes first. The first part is learning who you are as spirit, who you are in the greater scheme of the universe, who you are in your soul journey, in the participation of that in this lifetime. The second part is the gifts of spirit, what I call the gifts. I do clairvoyance, I can do healing, but that's the part, the what I see as the maybe the visual part, the people that people want most of, because it seems to elevate us in what we do is more important than who we are. And so they want that first. And what I've been doing over the 40 plus years that I've been involved consciously with spirit and universe and God in an open way is understanding exactly what you're saying, is that you discovered that it was about your soul purpose as a soul for you to you. There is a saying that I've said for decades: I and God are one. All that God is, I am. All that God has, I have. I am God's expression of God itself. And you've incorporated, you use your tools when needed, but your journey has always been in self-discovery, in in
Yes,
the
it
in
certainly
the
has.
vibration, the raising of that, the understanding of that.
Mhm. Absolutely, Barb. And I think you finally, just listening to what you've been saying, I think you finally get to a stage where you realize, okay, for the last, and I've hit the 3/4 now, for the last 75 years, I've been doing all the talking.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's time that I listened, really listened. So to me, now, the greatest prayer of all, the greatest thing that we can do for ourselves is to sit and basically shut up. Just be quiet. Just listen. Like you're saying, you listen to the trees. And look, I did that. And I did that for, many, many years.
Yeah.
But I find now that I need to spend more time in that listening than in speaking. and you learn so much more about yourself, and you learn so much more about who you really are and your journey ahead than you would ever learn from books or from recordings or videos or anything. So it's that I think we all eventually come to that place of silence and just allowing that to work through you. So yes, but it's an amazing journey. It's wonderful, and I'm having a ball. Mm.
Excellent. So is there a book coming out for you regarding this part of your journey in
Yeah,
your
well,
discovery?
funny thing you should say that, Barb, because
I know.
my latest, I'm supposedly working on my thesis at the moment, which was
Will
called,
be your book.
well, maybe it was called The Migration of the Soul. I really wanted to write on the migration of the soul. And I was doing this in using the bird, of course, as a metaphor, and looking at the migration of the bird and the Arctic tern, believe it or not. And the Arctic tern, flies from one pole to the other and back again every 12 months. It's the most amazing little bird. And Barb, you'll love this too. The Arctic tern, it gathers together, and I mean, they breed, and then the poor little birds, they have to make the journey. And the parents take off, and then the younger birds think, well, hang on a minute, wait for me, I've got to come too. So they take off too. And they stop at various places in their journey to feed and to be nourished and to, half of them then go one way and the other half go the other way down continents, and they end up in Antarctica and for summer, and they stay there. But on their way home, the shape they fly is an S. And you think, okay, Spirit, is this your sense of humor or what is it? But, flying in the shape of an S. So I started this journey on the migration of the soul to write and to do my thesis, which then I had planned to turn into a book. But as I began to write, I realized, hang on a minute, I haven't got there myself yet. I haven't finished the journey thus far of religious, metaphysical, spiritual. And so moving into the spiritual realm and really looking at that deeply, I think I've got a little way to go yet before I actually start to write. But I know once it's ready, or I'm ready, I'll be told, and then I'll probably be able to write the book in conjunction with the Arctic tern. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I've put it on hold for the moment because I've got so much else happening. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, as you just said, you haven't completed the S,
No.
and so I mean, who knows? I'm just throwing it out there. It might be a two-part book. It might be part A and part B. But if you're not able to be satisfied that you're halfway there,
Yeah.
uh, there's a. I looked at this many years ago, and I've met all sorts of people over the years because I've been an incredibly public figure all my working life, and and this is what I come with. And I do apologize if I've offended anybody. I'm not apologizing for what I'm saying because I
Mm.
believe it to be true, but I'm apologizing if I offend you with it. When you don't have any spiritual knowledge at all, it
Mm.
must be heaven bliss. You can kick the cat, kick the fridge, yell at the car, you can blame the government, you can blame the weather, and you can be the victim and bitch and moan about everything. A little bit of knowledge, and I've been there and I've been in this
Mm,
situation. To me, a little bit of knowledge is really dangerous because
mm,
people with a little bit of knowledge think they've got 100% of it.
mm.
And I've been there. And but those who have the most knowledge know that they know nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's realizing that, Barb. That's when you take your first step.
And
That's the
and it's
first step.
having the courage to understand that.
Mm,
When my youngest son was young, he we were in Melbourne, and he was classified because he started to read at 2 and 2 months, 2 and 3 months old, and on it goes.
mm,
And he was taken to Monash University. They've got a centre in Seoul called the Kongold Centre for Exceptional and Gifted Children. He went there for 3 years. Now, one of the things that we were told by the professor who came and visited the mums or dads once a month for questions, she would say, never ever tell your children something that you don't believe to be fully true, because gifted children don't have the facility that if you give them some information to then understand they've got to change that information.
yeah.
So it
Mm,
is your responsibility as a parent to understand and to be comfortable with the words, I don't know.
yeah.
And
Yes.
when my child asked me how many grains of sugar in a ton of sugar, and he was 4 years old, I had to legitimately say, I don't know. We'll figure that
Yeah.
out when we get computers. But but I went through that immense training. Is the reason I told you that is
Mm,
because I learned to be comfortable with the words I don't know.
I don't know. Yes. Yeah.
Others aren't happy with that answer because we're
Yeah.
supposed to know everything. But the more you know nothing.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
And that is really important in this day and age.
You're
So
right.
so
And
you're
that's sometimes you become comfortable.
yeah,
Mm,
and we're not here to know everything, but we're here to know that everything we know is right.
mm, mm.
Um,
Yes.
how how do you, when you look back over this period of time, how do you think you've really changed? In what areas do you perceive that you've changed?
That's a really big question, Barb.
It is.
Um, I think for me, and yes, I am going to be honest, the big thing for me was I had a big ego. And because I was pretty successful at whatever I did,
Mm.
I there but for God go I. I had a number of talents that you know, I was pretty good at. And so I thought I was pretty amazing at times. And then as I traveled through my spiritual journey, I discovered of myself I can do nothing.
Yeah.
And it's only the grace of God that enables me to do whatever I do. And so that was a big hit. I had to take one there and realize, get rid of that ego, girl, because that's what's going to hold you back in life. You can't afford to have an ego. And so I think losing that is one of the biggest struggles that we have in our spiritual journey, to suddenly realize that I'm I'm purely an instrument through which spirit works. And so why would I think I was good at stuff? You know, I'm here and I'm using myself hopefully now for the betterment of, to serve spirit, to serve God.
Right.
So I think that's how I changed in the biggest way. I think just the other way I changed too, though, Barb, was I became far more comfortable within myself in what I was learning about life and about spirit. And it gave me the opportunity to look back and go, as a 3 or 4 year old, when I said to my grandmother, I don't believe you, I started to think, wow, I know where I came from. I don't know what the last lifetime was, but obviously I entered this lifetime knowing that God was a God of love. And so it was confirmation, even though it took, 70 years to get there, it was a confirmation that yes.
So, Geraldine, can I just say to you, thank you so much for sharing today your wisdom, your inner and outer beauty, and your awareness and your growth in your understanding of spirit and who you are in spirit, with spirit, for spirit. God doesn't work for people, but works through people. And I just want to say thank you. You you have your words have meant so much to me, and I know thousands of other people feel exactly the same, that you've worked with or you've touched in some way. And I would like to ask you back another time to continue the in-depth of this conversation. And out there, listening to Geraldine, I was right, wasn't I, when I said I only ever interview the very best people.
Oh, Barb, thank
I
you.
only ever am so blessed to meet the most magnificent people, to share their wisdom, their knowledge, their experience, and whatever that they want to say that will bring value into your life. Geraldine, thank you so much. Stay safe and stay cool. And
Thanks,
love to
Barb.
Bob. Love to Bill.
Thank
Bob,
you.
who in the hell is Bob? Bill is your husband.
Thank you, Barb.